So welcome to 5.3. We're going to be dealing again with y equals mx plus b. The previous video was how to go about it, finding it if you had 2 points. We've already seen this a few times, okay? It's called the slope-intercept form of a linear function. If a function can be written like this, then it's linear, where b is the y-intercept, or the initial value, and m is the slope, which is constant. This does not change in the equation. So these are 3 formulas that we worked with earlier in chapter 5, and this just shows you how this can be written as y equals mx plus b. All they're doing is changing the variables from the input d to x, from the output c to y, etc. So here is some fastest growing cities in the country between the 2000 and 2010 census. We're going to look at what grew the fastest, and we can see it was Palm Coast, Florida. It grew from this many people to this many people. And that is the percent increase. That's the actual change, and that's the percent increase. So we're going to use this and get an equation. So the input is going to be the year, and the output, the population. Input for the second point, we have 2 points, just like in the last video, only now we're dealing with real data. So this is not a good way to do that when you're talking years, and we're often talking years for the input. And I'll show you why it's not good. I explained it before. This goes over a little better. So there is the difference, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So there is the slope. Now to find the y-intercept, you can use any one of these 2 points. And they use 2010, so they use 2010. That's the input there. Just like I did in the last video. There's my input and there's my output, 95,696. So this value equals the slope times the input plus b. So we're solving for b. Obviously, you multiply these together and subtract it, and you get b equals negative 9,122,968, which of course is, it's kind of absurd, right? You can't have a negative amount of people. But this would be when x is 0. So when x is 0, that would be the value of b. But what is year equals 0? Well, it's certainly not 2000 or 2010. It's not even back here, Revolutionary War, and then way back 2,000 years ago was the birth of Christ. So the data makes no sense. It works from the year 2000 and on, but before that it becomes kind of unworkable. So we almost always would do this by saying, let the year 2000 equal 0. And that's what we're going to do. See, if I was going to interpret this is how I interpret the population from this equation. The population of Palm Coast, Florida was growing at 4,586.4 people per year. In the year 0 CE, which is 0 AD, which is the year Christ was born, the population was a negative 9 million. And this does not make sense. So we don't do this. Instead, we're going to go ahead and build this by letting 2000 equal the year 0. So it's a big problem. It becomes difficult to interpret. So we're going to start with the year 2000 is 0. And so we'll have our two ordered pairs, 0, 49,000 and some, and 10, 95,000 and some. And so I'll put those up here. I have them in that thing. So there's our 2 points. And we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to get 45,864 over 10, which will equal 4,586.4 over 1, which there's the slope. So I can now start building my equation. Y, well, let me use the equation editor. The output of the total population Y is going to equal 4,586.4 times the input plus B. I'm going to let you think about B, because I'm just going to put it in here. I have B. Here's B. B is the value when x is 0 in the equation. It's the initial value. In this case, the initial year is 2000. So the initial value is 49,832. So there's what it is. Now I want you to be able to use the value of M and the value of B, each one of them in a sentence. So when you put it on pause, leave this up and think about it, and I'll put down an interpretation for M and B. So here's our interpretation for the slope, M. In Palm Coast, Florida, the population has been increasing by an average of 4,586.4 people per year. Or you could put 4,586. That's the interpretation of the slope. The interpretation of the initial value is in the year 2000, there were 49,832 people living in Palm Coast, Florida.